Perfect. Let's begin. Part 1. You're just temporary. That's what my mother said, while holding a tiara in her hand, meant for my sister's golden retriever. The same hand that used to braid my hair before school. The same voice that once whispered, "We'll always be together," the night we buried my father. My name is Claire. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Have you ever looked at someone you love and realized they already replaced you with a dog? It was my mother's 60th birthday. The whole house was packed with pink satin banners, champagne towers, and her friends from the tennis club who had never once remembered my name. But I came anyway. I even made her a photo album, handmade, every page laminated, my fingertips covered in glue for days. I walked into the kitchen holding it like a peace offering. That's when I saw the moving boxes, stacked in the hallway, labeled, "Claire's stuff." My heart didn't break. It thudded. I asked, "What's this?" She didn't even turn around. "Oh, sweetie, we needed the space. For Muffin." Muffin. My sister Ava's dog. Ava, who already lived rent-free in the guest wing with her Instagram-famous fur baby, had now decided Muffin deserved a sanctuary. And apparently, my bedroom fit the bill. I blinked. But I live here. That's when my mom looked at me, really looked at me for the first time that day. Her face, pulled tight from recent Botox, didn't flinch. "Claire, you're almost 30. Muffin needs the sunlight in that room. You're just temporary." No apology. No emotion. Like I was an air mattress they forgot to deflate. Ava walked by just then, smirking in her velvet tracksuit. "Come on, Claire. Don't be dramatic. It's not like you pay rent." I held up the album. Mom took one look, waved her hand and said, "Put it on the gift table. Right next to the Rolex Ava gave her." I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I walked upstairs, opened my closet and started folding my clothes. My mom didn't ask where I was going. She just said, "Don't forget to take the trash bags too." It wasn't a room they gave away. It was me. But what they didn't know is that while they were busy sipping mimosas and posting stories, I'd already discovered something in Dad's will. Something they never expected. So I zipped up my suitcase and whispered to myself, "Temporary? Let's make it permanent." The door shut behind me without a sound. But the echo of what I was about to do would shatter their world like broken champagne glass. You see, I didn't just leave the house that day. I walked away with a signature that owned it. And that was just the beginning. Part 2. I stayed silent for 4 months. Not because I was scared, but because I needed them to forget I existed. To get comfortable. To forget whose name was quietly typed into the deed they never bothered to read. You see, after Dad died, the will wasn't read in full. Ava said she couldn't handle the legal mumbo-jumbo. And Mom waved it off, saying, "Whatever your father left, it's all ours anyway." But Dad was a planner. He didn't trust banks. He didn't trust lawyers. He trusted ink on paper, and me. 3 weeks after his funeral, I found a dusty manila envelope in the attic, inside the back of his old vinyl cabinet. It had one sentence typed across the front. "For Claire if they forget." Inside was the original house deed, signed, notarized, and transferred to my name. He had done it before his second heart surgery. Before the whispers started about Mom changing. But I didn't tell a soul. Because revenge tastes best slow. I moved into a modest studio downtown. $1100 a month. Nothing fancy, but it was mine. I started tutoring kids again, saving quietly, living smaller. Meanwhile, Mom posted videos of Muffin's morning spa rituals in my old room, where she'd now installed a custom dog bathtub. The day Ava held a puppy shower with champagne and silk napkins that said, "Bow wow." I blocked her number. And I smiled. They'd stopped checking in. Not one, "How are you?" Just monthly mass invites to brunch events titled, "Poodles and Pearls." I never RSVP'd. Then one Monday morning I called my dad's old lawyer. The one who always wore beyond-the-lookout ties and spoke slowly like everything tasted bitter. "Mr. Turner," I said, "I'm ready." He pulled the file like it was waiting for dust to settle. "I figured this day would come," he muttered. "Your father was a quiet man. But he saw everything." 3 weeks later the sale was final. A buyer, a retired jazz musician named Ernest, fell in love with the southern windows and agreed to pay cash. We didn't even list it publicly. Mr. Turner handled the entire process under a blind trust. It was clean. Silent. The new owner would take possession in 10 days. Which meant the house would be theirs, whether Muffin finished her doggy Pilates or not. The next morning I sent one email. Subject: Notice of property transition. Attachment: Certified sale confirmation. I CC'd my mother, Eva, and Muffin's manager. Yes. The dog had a talent agent. It was 7:12 a.m. By 7:19 my phone lit up with 10 missed calls. At 7:25 Mom texted, "What did you do?" I didn't reply. I opened the window of my tiny studio, let the morning breeze touch my face, and whispered, "Built you a kingdom, Muffin. Now see if she'll give it all back." Because while they clapped for a dog in pearls, they forgot whose blood paid the mortgage. And I never forget. Ever. Part 3. By day 3 the screaming voicemails had stopped sounding like panic and started sounding like begging. Ava's voice cracked like a teenager's. "Claire, this is insane. You can't just sell the house. We live here." And my mother, she left a message that started with, "I don't know what your father told you," and ended with, "I'll sue you for emotional damages." But here's the thing. She couldn't sue me. Because legally I had done nothing wrong. Dad left it to me, not them. Not to the woman who replaced his memory with brunch menus. Not to the daughter who cried when her nail tech canceled but not when our father died. I didn't answer their calls. But I did show up. 2 days before the handover I drove by the house. Not to gloat. But to say goodbye on my terms. I parked across the street. They hadn't seen me since the birthday party. Mom was on the porch, pacing with a glass of wine at noon, shouting into her phone. Ava was dragging suitcases across the lawn, yelling at someone through her AirPods. Even Muffin looked stressed. Ava spotted me from across the yard. He actually ran. "Claire, please, just come talk to Mom. Let's fix this." I stayed by the car. She stood in front of me, out of breath, clutching a $700 purse like it might save her. "You want to fix it?" I asked quietly. She nodded, mascara smudged. "Then tell me what color my room was when I was 10. She blinked. "What?" I didn't repeat myself. He stared, then looked away. I nodded. "You never saw me, Ava." "Not once." He grabbed my wrist, fake nails digging in. "Claire, this is Mom's whole life." I pulled my hand free. "No. It was Dad's life. And she turned it into a spa for a dog." I walked away before the tears hit my throat. But they didn't fall. Because I wasn't sad. I was clear. That night I got a message from Mr. Turner. "Transfer complete. They'll be served formal notice tomorrow morning." By 8 a.m. the next day movers arrived at their gate. With a sheriff's deputy. And a notice to vacate. I didn't go. But I imagined the sound. Of drawers slamming, of voices shouting, of porcelain trophies clinking into cardboard boxes. That night Mom called again. One final voicemail. Just 5 words. "You were always so selfish." I laughed out loud. Alone in my studio I actually laughed. Because if claiming what's rightfully yours, if defending your father's name, if surviving being treated like furniture makes me selfish, then yes, I'm selfish. And finally, unapologetically, free. They thought I was just a shadow in the background. But shadows always return at sunset. And when I did, I brought the dark with me. Part 4. They moved into a cramped condo on East Halsted, with no yard and no porch swing, and a pet deposit Muffin's agent refused to reimburse. Mom called it temporary. Ava called it hell. I called it balance. But revenge wasn't the goal. Clarity was. Dad raced me to see people for who they were, not who they pretended to be in public. Mom could host charity galas and Ava could Instagram her morning mimosas. But behind closed doors, I was the one brushing crumbs off the family portrait while they rehearsed smiles. So when they vanished from the house, when the marble countertops and grand piano belonged to Ernest, I thought maybe, just maybe, they'd reflect. I was wrong. They blamed me. They spun a story about how I manipulated Dad in his final days. How I rushed the paperwork when no one was looking. They told friends I blindsided them. Even called the local paper to warn others about predatory family members. Funny, isn't it? They made me invisible my whole life. But the minute I showed up in my own story, They screamed like the credits rolled too soon. Ava cornered me at Trader Joe's a month later. Right by the organic granola. Claire. You happy now? She looked thinner. Or maybe just exposed. Like someone who'd never stood in their own silence before. I didn't answer. I reached for a bag of almonds. You're punishing Mom. Not me. Not Muffin. I turned slowly. She gave my bed to a dog, Ava. She was grieving. She was gloating. She's your mother. No, I said. She's a woman who stopped being my mother the day she decided I was replaceable. Ava blinked. I grabbed my almonds and walked away. Because grief doesn't justify cruelty. And cruelty doesn't get a second chance. Not when it's wrapped in pearls and puppy bows. But here's where the story sharpened. A week after the house sale finalized, Mr. Turner called again. Claire, there's something else. A second file. Apparently, Dad had left a contingency envelope. Locked in his office safe. Labeled. If they still don't see her. Inside. The lake property. The cabin no one knew he still owned. An inheritance account with \$72000. All mine. And a note written in Dad's unmistakable looping script. You were always enough. Don't let them convince you otherwise. I sat in Mr. Turner's office, staring at the words. As the afternoon sun made shadows dance on the legal paper. For the first time in years I cried. Not because I was hurt. But as I was loved. Quietly. Deeply. On purpose. Dad didn't raise a doormat. He raised a lighthouse. And now I had the shoreline. While they scrambled to find someone else to blame, I stood still. On solid ground he left just for me. And from that moment, I stopped answering their calls. Because healing speaks in silence. And I was finally fluent. Part 5. The cabin was quiet. Not eerie quiet, peaceful. You know that kind of silence where even the birds sound respectful? I drove up on a Tuesday, windows down, radio off. Just me and the wind and a new key in my hand. The gravel crunched like applause under my tires. Dad had built this place with his own hands before Ava was born. He used to take me fishing here when I was little. Just the two of us and a rusty tackle box that smelled like lake water and peppermint gum. He always said, "This is where I come to remember what matters." And now it was mine. There was no marble. No gold faucets or Instagram-worthy chandeliers. Just cedar walls, thick quilts, and a photo of me at 10 years old. Holding a fish bigger than my head. I stood in the doorway and whispered, "I remember, Dad." The next morning I finally blocked their numbers. Every single one. Even Aunt Teresa who texted, "You know your mom's not well." Even Uncle Ray who called twice pretending it was about a family emergency. I blocked them all. Because here's the truth they never understood. Being family doesn't excuse being harmful. And being not well doesn't make someone safe. They could keep their excuses. They keep my boundaries. And I didn't just rebuild my life. I rerouted it. I started painting again. Not professionally. Just for me. I hung my work in the hallway beside Dad's fishing rods. I even adopted a dog from the shelter. An old three-legged lab named Murphy who snored louder than the wind. Funny how a mutt with a limp treated me with more loyalty than anyone with my last name. Meanwhile, back in town the story shifted. Ava posted a video online crying in a silk robe, saying she was spiritually displaced. Mom joined a support group for mothers of estranged daughters. Never mentioning she was the one who exiled me over a Yorkshire Terrier. But none of that touched me anymore. Because distance isn't just measured in miles. It's measured in peace. And for the first time I was rich in it. Until one night, I got a letter. A real one. In the mailbox by the cabin gate. No stamp. No return address. Inside was a photo. Of the house. My old house. The windows boarded up. A foreclosure sign planted in the yard like a tombstone. And scribbled in pen on the back. You got what you wanted. Hope it was worth it. I stood on the porch with Murphy asleep at my feet. The lake shimmering under the moon. And I stared at that message like it was in another language. Because no, I didn't get what I wanted. I didn't want to lose a mother. I didn't want to be betrayed by my only sister. But I got what I needed. A clean break. A father's quiet love. And the strength to never beg to belong again. Let them send all the pictures they want. I have the only one that matters. It's framed in the hallway. Me, Dad, and that giant fish. Grinning, free, and finally seen. Part 6. The letters didn't stop. First that photo. Then a second envelope. This time, a handwritten note in Mom's cursive. You've made your point. Come home. Come home. To the same walls that echoed with her smirk the day she told me I was temporary. To the room where Muffin once slept on Egyptian cotton while I curled up on a lumpy air mattress. I tossed the note in the fire. Murphy cocked his head at me, as if to ask *, you sure? Sis. I nodded. Yeah, buddy. I'm sure. Because here's the secret no one tells you. Estrangement doesn't always start with screaming. Sometimes it starts with a smirk. A slight. A decision to call someone temporary. When they're the reason you ever had permanence. But as the seasons changed at the lake, I found something strange blooming inside me. Forgiveness. Not the kind where you let them back in. The kind where you finally stop letting their voices echo in your head. I painted the living room walls sage green. Started a small Etsy shop selling prints of my watercolors. Taught Murphy how to fetch the morning paper even if he mostly just slobbered on it. And one morning as I sipped coffee on the porch, Mr. Turner called. I thought you'd want to know, he said. They tried to contest the will. I laughed. A real sharp laugh that tasted like armor. Of course they did. They're claiming emotional manipulation, he continued. That your father wasn't of sound mind when he changed the documents. Did they mention the 10 letters Dad wrote to me before he passed? I asked. The ones your office notarized? They tried. I shut it down. He paused. They're broke, Claire. Completely. Maxed out credit. Missed mortgage payments. Your sister's car was repossessed last week. For a moment I felt it. That old ache. The little girl in me still wanted to be chosen. Still wanted her mother to love her more than she loved appearances. But then Murphy pawed at my leg. And I remembered the warmth of Dad's lake cabin. And the silence that wasn't lonely, just clean. I'm not surprised, I said finally. But I'm not sorry either. Because I didn't destroy them. They did that all on their own. I simply stepped aside and let their choices bloom. A week later I received another package. Heavier this time. Inside. A locket. My grandmother's, the one Mom swore was lost. No note. No explanation. Just a fragile gold chain and a photo of me at age 4 tucked inside. I held it up to the light. Maybe it was a peace offering. Maybe it was guilt. Maybe Ava hoped I'd mistake it for love. But I didn't need to guess. I didn't need to open the door just because someone knocked. Instead, I placed the locket on a nail above the fireplace. Not as a symbol of reconciliation. As a relic. A museum piece from a world I outgrew. Because some ghosts don't haunt. They just remind you of how far you've come. And I wasn't haunted anymore. I was home. Part 7. I was folding laundry when the knock came. 3 rapid thuds. Then silence. Then a voice I hadn't heard in months. Trembling, high-pitched, desperate. Claire, please. We need to talk. I stood frozen in my flannel pajama pants, one sock half folded in my hand. Ava. I didn't move. Then came Mom's voice, sharp and cracking. We are family. You can't just shut us out like this. I walked to the front door but didn't open it. I just listened. To the chaos I used to swim in. To the voices that once dictated the worth of my presence. I heard Ava sob. It's gone, Claire. Everything's gone. They auctioned off the furniture this morning. Mom added, your sister is pregnant. Do you understand that? Pregnant and homeless. That word, homeless, used to scare me. Well, I looked around the cabin. The plants. The art. The scent of cinnamon and Murphy's muddy paw prints. Home wasn't marble countertops. It wasn't a walk-in closet or a guest wing for a dog. It was peace. It was mine. So I opened the door. They flinched like I'd thrown boiling water on them. Ava's mascara was smudged. Mom looked older. Like guilt was weathering her bones. You left us, Ava whispered. I blinked. No, I said. You gave me away. The day you handed my room to a dog and told me I was temporary? That's when you left me. Mom opened her mouth but no words came. I stepped outside, closing the door gently behind me. Not to let them in. Just to say what I needed face to face. You told me Dad's love didn't matter anymore because he was gone. But his love built this. I gestured to the house. The trees. The calm. I didn't take anything from you. I inherited what was already mine. You assumed you'd get it all because you were louder, shinier, crueler. But you forgot Dad saw everything. He saw me. Mom's lips trembled. We're still your family, she choked. No, I said softly. You were my relatives. Family shows up when you're at your lowest. You showed up when I had something you wanted. Ava stepped forward, reaching out. Claire, please. I'm having a baby. I nodded slowly. And I hope that baby never has to feel what I felt growing up. Invisible. Replaceable. Disposable. I hope you learn to give what you never gave me. I turned and walked inside, locking the door behind me. The silence afterward wasn't empty. It was whole. It was a wall rebuilt after a lifetime of cracks. That night, I lit a candle and placed the locket in a glass box. Not to mourn. To remember that I had survived the kind of love that comes with conditions. And that I no longer needed to earn it. Outside, their voices faded into the wind. Inside, I slept like I hadn't in years. Free. I didn't hear from them again. Not a call. Not a card when my birthday passed. Not even a cold, typed-out email. And that silence. It was the loudest confession they could have made. They knew. They finally knew they'd lost me. Not because I turned cold, but because I stopped fighting to stay warm in their ice storm. Spring came early at the lake that year. The wildflowers bloomed faster than expected, like even the earth was ready to begin again. I started teaching watercolor classes out of the sunroom. Murphy made a game of stealing my students' slippers. I laughed more in those months than I had in the last 2 decades. One afternoon I got a letter, this one from the bank. The house in Mom's neighborhood, officially sold to a developer. Slated to be torn down. The place where I'd cried myself to sleep more nights than I could count. Was going to be a parking lot. And weirdly I didn't feel vindicated. I didn't feel giddy or cruel or powerful. I felt done. Because revenge isn't always slamming doors or cutting ties. Sometimes it's quietly building a life so beautiful. They can't enter it without shattering. I went down to the dock that evening with a glass of wine and one of Dad's old sweaters. The lake was glassy. So, I held the last photo I had of us. Dad and me on the porch, paint on our clothes, joy on our faces. Guess we made it, huh? I whispered. The sun sank slow, golden across the water. Somewhere in the distance, a dog barked. Murphy lifted his ears, then rested his head on my knee. And in that moment I finally understood what Dad had given me. Not just a house. He gave me the freedom to walk away. To choose peace over pain. To choose myself not as a rebellion, but as a right. I didn't need their apology. Didn't need them to see me now. Because I saw myself, clearly. And that was enough. My name is Claire. And when they call my name at the gates now, I don't answer. Because this gate isn't locked to keep them out. It's closed to protect what I rebuilt from the ruins they left behind. And for the first time in my life, that door isn't waiting to be knocked on. It's home.